Thank you very much. It's with pleasure that we are here to announce the Pact of Amsterdam that will establish the European urban agenda. Cities have always in history been the place for creativity, innovation, and therefore the nucleus for economic growth. However, we saw all over Europe in the mid-80s, until the mid-80s, that people were leaving the cities because of deindustrialization and were moving out of the cities. And since then, people have moved in. Since approximately 1985, that trend has been visible. But that can only be sustainable if life in the cities is good. That means if the air is clean enough, if there's enough nature, if there's good education for the children, if there's safety, and also if it's lifespan sustainable. So if people can stay there also until old age. So on all the fronts, we have to work on a good urban agenda to achieve dense cities, because we know from theory and research that densification is required for optimal effect of urbanization. Dense cities, but at the same time, sustainable cities. So it must be more than just high-rise concrete buildings. So that's the challenge in front of all of us. It's probably appropriate that a long trajectory of many years has now resulted in this agenda under the Dutch chairmanship, because after Malta, small city-state, the Netherlands is the most urbanized of all the member countries of the European Union. So the Pact of Amsterdam, that consists of three cornerstones. One is policy making, where it is now agreed that all the policies that are being initiated are initiated together with the cities. So whether it's clean air or refugees, at the end of the day, all these regulations land in the cities where it needs to be done. And therefore, it's much wiser if the cities are involved from the start in making these policies. Second, we have to organize good access to the existing funding. And third, we have to share knowledge. And even in the meeting today, we experience so many cases where similar situations occur. You're now visiting Amsterdam, and if you look around in the center of Amsterdam, you see that the program to attract tourists has been immensely successful, so successful that the housing price is going up, and that people who used to live there ask themselves if they can stay there. That's not unique. You see that in Venice, you see that in Barcelona, you see that in Paris and London. So it's just one example where you can share experience and think about solutions together. So those are the three building blocks. What's new to the pact is the format. That's also why we've chosen the word pact. It's not Europe that decides that this is what's going to happen. It's not the member states collectively, but it's all these layers together, the regions, the cities, the countries, the European Commission, the institutions that have together decided to go that way. And also the format is new in that we go for programs in which 5 countries, 5 cities, and other partners work together on a theme. And just to mention 2 of them, and then I'll wrap up. One is the theme of clean air, where the Netherlands is leading the program. Another one will be led by Slovakia, and it's the theme that I just alluded to, is affordable housing in the cities, how to make sure that we do not lose the advantage of the cities, because we lose the melting pot effect if people can no longer afford to live there, also on mid and lower incomes. So that's another program, in this case led by Slovakia. So I'm very happy that we're here, and we would never have stood here if it hadn't been for the close collaboration with both the Organization of the Regions and with the European Commission. And I want to thank you both for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like, first of all, of course, to say my big thanks to Minister Plasterk and to the Dutch presidency of the Council for the tireless work on the setting up the urban agenda for the European Union. I'm very happy that after months, if not years of preparation, we come today with a solid urban agenda through this Pact of Amsterdam. And I hope after the approval of the Council, we can go on and establish these partnership action plans and work together. You know very well that we are facing today a tough economic migration and social challenges, and cities which are home to 2/3 of the EU populations are often in the forefront of these challenges. Because they are the closest to the citizens, they have unique insights on how to address these issues, and I am very glad that we now have this framework to listen to the cities more. The EU urban agenda will allow cities to make their voices heard more, and it will enable also them to fully contribute to the design and implementation of EU policies, so this can be better addressed to urban realities. And of course, I deeply believe that the European Union is stronger if we closely involve cities in the design and implementation of EU policies and in EU investments. As you might know, 15 billion euros from the EU regional policy will be invested directly by cities for sustainable urban development projects. And the EU urban agenda also means, as the minister said, that we as a Commission are at the equal footing on the cities, with the member states, with the regions, but we are all ready to put urban matters higher on our agenda now and in the future. And of course, I will ensure that the Commission contributes actively to the urban agenda and uses its outcomes when designing policies. Today, as Minister said, we have agreed in setting up a number of partnerships which will involve the European institutions, member states, regional and local authorities, experts, civil society, and I think this partnership will make sure that the common and innovative solutions are found for challenges such as air quality, migration, or sustainable urban mobility. I think we have a great news today, and the Commission will stand by the whole range of partners to help make the urban agenda for the EU a success story for everybody. Thank you very much once again.
Today we have get a very important goal, and the sign of the Pact of Amsterdam is a concrete step, finally a concrete step toward an European Union urban agenda that we have advocated for more than a decade as Committee of the Region. Let me spend a few words on the Committee of the Region. The Committee of the Region is the assembly of regional and local authorities in Europe, made by 350 representatives coming from any region, cities, provinces, counties all over Europe. Let me say a sort of European Parliament of local authorities. And we are really interested in and involved in the European urban agenda. This is the reason why we have advocated for a long time a concrete step on this issue. And today we have organized a forum beside the informal ministerial meeting with more than 500 participants coming here in Amsterdam from any place in Europe, representing their municipalities, their regions, and asking for concrete results. So the first concrete result is the signing of the Pact of Amsterdam, and we are grateful, and I would say thanks to the Netherlands governments, to Minister Plasterk, because in the Netherlands presidency, in this semesters, our Dutch friends have been really and concretely pushing towards a real step. And the Pact of Amsterdam is this first step. But it's not the final step. Now we have to work to translate in concrete results the proposal of the Pact of Amsterdam, and the urban agenda should not be an abstract agenda, but must be improved concretely. Because the 12 topics of the urban agenda are all really important. We are looking to concrete policies like refugee crisis, like urban mobility, like social housing, and so on. So the most important issues for the local authorities related to the services that we have to concrete delivery to the people. And last important elements for us, the urban agenda, European urban agenda, and the Pact of Amsterdam ask for more bottom-up policies in Europe, not just top-down policies, but policies and decisions, strategic decisions taken with the cooperation of local authorities, with respect of the principle of subsidiarity, translating the principle of subsidiarity in concrete decision. So a strategy built up with the contribution of mayors, of governors, of regional and local councils to create a different idea of Europe, a bottom-up Europe where the local territories could concretely contribute to create our common policies. And we ask for this symphonic Europe made by a lot of differences, but playing the same music and working together. Thank you.
Non, ma première question, en fait, je sais que c'est un long processus, que les politiques urbaines est un long processus dont on discute depuis plus de 20 ans. Et je voulais connaître, c'est une question plutôt ouverte, je voulais connaître votre position vis-à-vis de l'aspect volontaire de la participation au partenariat. Et est-ce qu'à terme, on pourrait envisager une évolution plus contraignante de la participation au partenariat? Ça, c'est ma première question. Et après, c'est plutôt une observation. Est-ce que le protocole que vous avez suivi aujourd'hui, c'est-à-dire que ce soit vous, d'abord, M. Plasterk, qui parle, après la Commission, puis les régions, est-ce que ça indiquerait que la politique urbaine restera quand même dans les mains des États membres en premier lieu, ou ça n'a aucune signification du tout? Voilà. Merci.
Minister Plasterk. Actually, thanks very much for the questions. They are, I believe, related, because you're asking whether the contribution is voluntary, and you're also asking why we speak in the order that we speak in. Now, the latter point I would not overemphasize. We happen to be the host of the session today. But indeed, I believe that the urban agenda for Europe has been held back for many years because there was fear of non-subsidiarity. And there was, the fear that city affairs needed to be done by cities. Now, having thought through that, it's clear that we all agree that city affairs need to be done by cities. So nobody is going to tell cities how to handle their affairs. But that does not mean that it is not useful to get together in capitals of the countries, but also in Brussels, and talk to each other and be aware of the fact that cities are the greatest invention since mankind. After the wheel and the fire, we invented the city. And that's crucial. Without that, we wouldn't be anywhere. So to realize that and to make sure that our policies reflect that realization is a real task that we can pick up at the European level. But yes, and that's also why we've chosen the format of the programs. It is voluntary whether cities, regions, countries do or do not want to be part of a specific program.
Thank you very much for the question. I made very clear all the time that this is not EU Commission-led, it is not EU member states-led urban agenda, not cities, but I think we all have the responsibility, because nothing can be done without the EU, nothing can be done without the member states, and also nothing can be done without the cities. I give you just an example. For instance, on social houses, it's EU who sets some rules, such as those of energy efficiency of buildings, but it's the member states who decides on the number of social housing, and of course there are cities who build this housing and make the link with the inhabitants. So this is really, truly a multi-level governance, and I made, as I said, very clear that the Commission doesn't want to interfere in the relationship between the member states and the cities. The Commission will play, of course, different role. We are participant to the partnership and provide expertise of the EU level. Also, we implement some of the action plans, and we make the link with other EU institutions. a link with the international dimension. We have also the Sustainable Development Goals, and we'll participate to the UN Habitat in Ecuador, in Quito. And of course, we are facilitator because we provide technical assistance, guidance, doing monitoring, reporting. So on your question on voluntary, I think it's very important for us to make now, after the adoption of Urban Agenda, an effort of communicating and let the cities know about all the opportunities that they have in this partnership. So we already have the lead of these 4 partnerships. Partnerships, for instance, on migration is Netherlands, on housing is Slovakia, air quality we have, but on the others already we have member states who would like to involve, and they would like to have the lead on local employment and other partnerships. You know that there are 12 thematic objectives that we hope to launch this year. We also prepare in the Commission to have one-stop shop until the autumn, to have only one website, because now many DGs are dealing, almost all of the DGs are dealing with the urban matters. And of course, it's very important to have one-stop shop and give advices, guidance, and make cities aware about the possibilities that they have. You know that for the first time in this programming period, 2014-2020, for the first time it will be 15 billion euro directly managed by the cities. It's a great sign of trust between the European Commission and the cities of Europe, but also a great responsibility. So we are ready to help the cities with administrative capacity. Some of them, they have a lot of experience, like cities that they use these funds for 40 years now, and others, of course, they do not have this high administrative capacity, and I think it's our duty to help the cities to have high quality projects, first of all, to have projects and to implement them. Thank you.
Mr. Cattaneo?
Thank you. Well, let me answer frankly speaking. 72% of the European decision, the decision taken by European Commission or European Parliament, has been implemented at local level, in the cities or the region. More than 70% of the European citizens lives in cities, and this percentage is expected to rise to 80% in few years. And 85% of the European GDP has been produced in the urban areas. So I'm not worried about the voluntary aspect of the Pact of Amsterdam, because without the contribution of cities and urban area, Europe practically does not exist. If we are talking about a concrete idea of Europe, not an abstract one, we must involve the role of the cities, the region, and the urban areas in the European policy making. And this is the reason why I think it's very important what the minister have done today in Amsterdam and the perspective of the European urban agenda.
From ANSA, the Italian News Agency, actually I have a couple of questions. The first one is maybe for the Minister of Interiors. Can you confirm that the urban agenda, I mean the Amsterdam, the Pact of Amsterdam, would be endorsed also by the EU summit, I mean, of leaders at the end of the month? I suppose that this is a crucial step in order to get more, let's say, even if not binding, but kind of commitment also at government levels. And talking about the commitment of governments, do you think it could be realistic to have in the not so far future councils, for example, on migration, where also the regional authorities and local authorities are represented, and they can, I mean, have at least the observatory status to participate to the concrete discussions that are involving cities first, and then, I mean, all the territories. And to Mr. Cattaneo, what is the general approach, I'm Italian, of the Italian government? Did you get the support from also the national authorities on this work, and what are you expecting concretely from the Italian government in this, on these issues? Thank you.
First, Minister Plasterk.
Yeah. Well, let me confirm that, as you point out correctly, the formal adoption of the conclusions will be expected, I should say, in a formal sense, but will certainly be expected in the summit at the end of June. So yes, indeed, that will be the confirmation, but we have no doubt that it will be confirmed. Then you're asking a question about the organization of councils. Strictly speaking, that's not my responsibility, so I'd like to refer that to the European institution, one of which is represented here.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I want to remind you that this Pact of Amsterdam was approved today by all 28 ministers, and it was done together with all the governments. So I think it's very important and, to know. In the case of Italy, I met last week Secretary of State De Vicenti. He was not able to be here. He was represented by a deputy, but anyhow, I don't think it will be a problem for the Council. First of all, we are already working with Italy on dealing with migration, and we had a very fruitful discussion with the Secretary of State. We are very worried about the new challenges that are about to come. And I proposed to the Secretary of State, if the situation will be worsened, to make a working group in order with DG Regio and DG Home, in order to help the Italian authorities to deal with a huge wave of migration if it's necessary. You know that for the last programming period, 2007-2014, Italy was a single country who asked for the redirection of some money. We redirected 220 million for support of refugees, but I must say very honestly that not all money were spent, because sometimes of the lack of administrative capacities. You can imagine that there are small towns without experience in this, and we are ready to help through the technical assistance. We are ready to put together all our funds. We have, first of all, the fund for migration and asylum. We also fund through the cohesion policy a lot of infrastructure, mobile hospitals, hotspots, and so on. And also we have the social fund for the integration of migrants. You know that on the 7th of June, the European Commission will adopt the integration package. I think it's very important. So I think we have concrete discussions on migration with many member states, but of course Italy and Greece are the main, and Germany, with whom we are working, and the cohesion policy is really an important part of what they are doing on migrants.
Mr. Cattaneo.
Thank you. Well, answering the question to what I'm expecting by the Italian government, the answer is yes. I expect support by the Italian government, most of all because the Italian government knows very well that without the contribution of local authorities, it's pretty much impossible to concretely implement policies like refugees crisis and migrants policies. You know very well the situation in Italy. The migrants arrive always in a concrete place on the ground. And sometimes it's not a large city, a big city, it's a small village. And the administrative capacity, the administrative tools, the resources to host them, to help them, to offer them health services, any other kind of hospitality depends from the concrete possibility of that local authorities to offer that kind of services. So I wait strong support of the Italian government to the perspective of the Pact of Amsterdam. And let me answer with few words on the interesting question on the future of European councils about the participation of regions. Of course, it's not my responsibility, but Europe is changing. And nowadays, the ministerial meetings are made by 28 ministers coming from 28 countries. Most of them are small countries, small nations. For instance, I chair the Regional Council of Lombardy. Lombardy is a region with 10 million inhabitants, with a GDP greater than the GDP of Belgium, twice the GDP of Denmark or Greece. I think that in the future the role of that great regions probably must be taken more on board of the European policies, because on the opposite, the risk could be that the small countries like the Baltic Republic or the former Yugoslavia countries could introduce an idea of a centralistic European policies delivered by national state. And I think it probably will not run in the founder European countries like Germany, Italy, Spain, France. So the greater countries, the larger countries in Europe. So probably something should be decided about it, and I will be very happy the day where the regions will be included in an informal meeting of ministers discussing issues important like today issues. Thank you.
Commissioner, you wanted to add some comments?
I just wanted to tell you one more information. Tomorrow I will meet 6 presidents from the Mezzogiorno, Campania, Catania, Basilicata, Abruzzo. So I'm looking forward to hear of their problems and how we can help.
Good afternoon. My name is Claudia Marcu. I'm the correspondent of Radio Romania in the Netherlands. I followed the urban agenda since the beginning of this year, since 4th of January actually, when the presidency was taken over. And also the summit of the city makers, the summit of the mayors. And I remember what the mayor of Athens said last month, that the cities may save the honor of European Union. Do you think that the cities will do that together with this urban agenda, considering all the tensions in Europe at this moment?
Minister Plasterk.
Yes, I think indeed that may happen. And actually, since you attached the question to a session on city makers, and it hasn't been mentioned here, I would like to emphasize that we've thus far talked about institutions, formal institutions, but you see an immense influence of groups, informal groups of citizens or citizen organizations that get together. And just to mention one example, which I believe started in Barcelona, that struck me yesterday, was where citizens buy little gadgets for a few euros that measure air pollution. And they're smart things that can, by Wi-Fi, be connected to your own home computer. And there's an app that shares the data between other users. So it's all cheap technology, but it allows citizens to measure air pollution in their neighborhood or in their city, and as an output of their own actions. And if that were, and I know that it is now also adopted in Amsterdam, and that sort of bottom-up technology and bottom-up initiatives are going to be of immense value. So I think it's not just the cities, but even organizational systems that are, I wouldn't say lower than that, but that are not formally organized, that may play an immense role, and that nevertheless will play through European channels, because we share that information, we get enthusiastic if we see that, and we say, hey, we could also apply that in our cities.
You want to elaborate on this?
I just want to say that this urban agenda, it's an unique opportunity for the cities, and I think it's very important for them to know about all the instruments that we have, and of course we are, as I said, we are ready to provide expertise. This urban agenda is to go on with implementation. We had the Riga Declaration, which was a political declaration, and now we go on with a framework of working together and implement all this policy. We have this thematic objective partnerships. I think is very important, and it is clear that from my point of view as Commissioner for Regional Policy, it's an opportunity to improve the use of cohesion funds on the ground. Under the better funding heading, it will build on the experience of some of the cities through the better knowledge, and of course to to share these good practices such as innovative projects which can then be replicated all over Europe. So helping cities, I think through the helping cities we help member states and the EU in achieving better results under all EU policies. Thank you.
Mr. Cattaneo, you want to say something about this?
1 month ago I've been here in Amsterdam to participate to the European Capital City Mayors meeting, not as a mayor but as a representative of Committee of the Region. And yes, I agree that the requests made by the mayors are absolutely important for the future of European Union. And for instance, discussing on the future of cohesion policies and of European funds, we asked together that that kind of policy should be driven in the future by the local authorities and not by the national government. But let me underline a risk. I think we have to avoid the risk to introduce a battle, a confrontation between cities and regions. We have to work together because this kind of problem are not limited to the border of the city, of the cities. Probably we have to talk about global city regions at the right dimension of this kind of issues. And I think the cooperation between region and cities it's a key point to get the results of the urban agenda and to face an experience of success. Because on the opposite, probably we will face unsuccess in the future.
Yeah. Warm welcome to all of you on this concluding. We'll have brief statements by Minister Plasterk, the Dutch Minister of the Interior, and Mr. Cattaneo on behalf of the